in 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the KD Ratio Podcast. We've been gone for a few episodes, but we're back at you. Yeah, it's been
We missed last week, but we had one the week before.
also. Well, I think I'm counting the streaming. We've been gone for quite a few streams.
We haven't streamed. We've fallen off.
Yeah, we're horrible. But
Sorry to disappoint.
tonight I have a full house, and by
We're
that
gonna
I mean
start off with some high-powered energy.
yeah. Who do we have here for the full house?
We got William.
And
Kyle.
wow,
Wow.
That's a full house. Holy shit.
I loved your guys' energy right there. I could feel it emanating.
Well, you completely deflated.
and
my
I
energy.
am so happy.
You sound so happy.
Well, anyways,
Anyways,
we're depressed. We can move on.
where's this going? What's happening here?
I just wanted to tell the listeners how we've been, you know?
We've been depressed?
Yeah. Haven't you?
Man, I would just love to continue listening to that podcast. If I heard in the first 30 seconds.
They're like,
Just the bullshit that you just spouted out of your mouth just now. God, what a joke.
well, hopefully you guys enjoyed that opening because we're moving right on. First, I wanted to talk about today is Kyle is fucking hyped
I was like,
for the Flash.
yes, I am. All right. And I'm tired of pretending like I'm not. I finally admitted it today. I'm fucking hyped. New trailer just dropped for the Flash movie that's coming out. It's the second major trailer, and this one was, I honestly, it really is selling me on this, and I'm gonna be there opening night for sure because it looks so fucking good. And for anyone that knows the Flashpoint, you could see where it has a lot of inspiration from Flashpoint, but obviously they are taking it in a unique direction. There's nothing in it that doesn't look fun, and it looks just like a really good time. And I'm hoping that it'll scratch that superhero itch that I haven't really scratched in a while now. So I don't know. That's just me. You guys are both kind of like, eh. But
I haven't really heard Billy's opinion. He's been pretty quiet.
Honestly, I think DC has an interesting opportunity here because their universe has not had the same power creep that Marvel has, right? It's very grounded heroes with like reasonable, understandable gifts and powers. They don't have, like summoning
What,
of the
DC?
universe. Yeah, DC, at least in this Flash.
Reasonable powers?
Yeah.
well, explain
I'm
what
talking
you're
about
saying.
like
Explain
in
to me.
Marvel, the power creep that's existed in Marvel. We've talked about it before, where like it's gotten so galactic and so massive on its scale that
Oh.
it has issues of balancing like its
Yeah.
heroes and making it relatable and stuff. DC and like the heroes that are being thrown out on, like you got the Flash, who's really fast, who can manipulate time, and that's kind of cool. Like the villain looks like he's got some cool powers and stuff. Is it General Zod or whatever?
He's Kryptonian, so he's
Evil
Superman.
There you
Superman
go.
levels of power.
And Superman is super overpowered, but when you compare it to like Airsham and some of the other shit we've seen in Marvel, it's very quote unquote grounded still. So you'll see some probably like really interesting like hand to hand combat fight scenes. You got Batman, who's going to be a core element in it. So I think they have an opportunity to be like to get the reset of where maybe Marvel was 10 years ago of having super grounded, single dimensional beings instead of this multiverse of madness stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm hyped. I'll watch it. And I might go to the midnight premiere if we decide to, for sure.
It's going to be on HBO Max, probably.
On release.
I don't know about on release.
No, I don't think on release.
But it'll probably be on it pretty quickly. But I would rather see it in the theaters.
Does DC have a deal with HBO or?
It's owned by Warner Bros., which is HBO.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's why all DC
So
movies.
you could expect it as fast as like a Marvel movie would go to Disney Plus then, right?
Probably.
So like what? Well, that seems to be roughly like 2, maybe 3 months after release.
Well, I know that the Batman released 30 days after.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But that was like a special thing.
Yeah.
Black Adam, is the
Godzilla
one,
versus Kong released day one.
but that was COVID.
That
That
was
we were still recovering from COVID.
Everything is COVID.
But like Shazam, that would be our most recent example, and that I think was like 2 months exactly
Okay.
is when it came to HBO.
So definitely not waiting for me personally. I'm not waiting 2 months to see it. The Flash is probably my second favorite DC hero. I'm not going to get into the whole Ezra Miller thing because that's a whole episode in
Yeah.
itself. But
can Google those
separating him from the character, he like it looks like it'll be fun, and his Flash has always been a little weird to me. He's always kind of like he's got this nervous, high energy, like ADD type thing going on, which he kind of has in the comics, but Ezra Miller like amps it up to 11. But after watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, he's also capable of having those heart like racing emotional moments that he never really got a chance to showcase in the original cut of the Justice League and all that. And so,
Who was the guy that played the Flash before Ezra? So it was. I'm talking about the
TV
it was-
show?
No, it was with the scene that I'm specifically thinking about right now is where they're like in a kitchen or maybe escaping, taking Magneto out of prison or something like that. And
Are you
he
talking about
slows it-
Quicksilver? That's Marvel. That's a completely separate character.
Oh, I am totally.
Yeah, that's Quicksilver.
I'm totally thinking of the wrong character.
I was like, wait,
You're talking about where they're in a room and he like runs
Yep.
around and he like moves the stuff out of the way.
that's Quicksilver.
Oh, who's that guy?
The guy that plays Quicksilver? That's the guy that just played Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes, I love that actor. I don't know why I'm thinking about it.
Well, because
Well,
he's
he
a
has the same. He's Marvel's Flash.
He's
right?
not as fast as Flash.
Oh, he can't.
They've actually, they've put them together, and he is the fastest. Well, Barry Allen's not the fastest Flash, but the Speed Force, is faster than any other.
Wait, there's
in
faster
Marvel.
Flashes.
Yeah,
the
there's,
second one.
there's Flashes that are faster than Barry Allen.
Who's the fastest Flash?
Oh God, what is his name?
Wait a minute. How does this make sense? So like,
Is Kid Flash the fastest?
Kid Flash.
I think he's the fastest.
But he becomes the Flash, and
how do we know this? Because he can reverse time faster.
No.
Well, they
Or-
talk about the speed levels and the like.
There's stuff that he does. The second Flash.
Isn't it? I mean, like, what is he? What advantage at a certain point do you have?
The second Flash.
Only if you're going up against other Flashes.
Oh, I see. So like, you okay?
A lot of Flash's enemies are you use the Speed Force.
So I wonder if like, because I remember the scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League where like Superman looks at him
Yeah.
when he's like running past. So like you're saying Kid Flash would have the upper hand on him in that instance because he couldn't.
Well, even Flash
Barry
has
Allen.
even Barry Allen has the upper
Wally
hand on
West.
Superman. Wally West. Even Barry Allen has the upper hand on Superman. I think he was just more caught off guard that Superman was as fast as he was. But Superman's not moving at the speed of light, you know? Like, I think Flash was more just like, holy shit, I've never seen someone else get this close
Yeah.
to my level.
Well,
You know?
anyway, I'm sorry I totally derailed this conversation because even once you said that, I'm like, what? I'm talking about Magneto, you dumbass. Like what?
I'm like,
That's
yeah,
the
Magneto
wrong-
from Marvel.
I'm like, that's completely the wrong.
I honestly,
but I love that scene.
I thought
so
you were
much.
trolling,
No,
so I was just going to let you go. I was like, he's not serious.
no, dude. I have a hard time keeping. As someone who's not a comic book fan per se, of like, you know, the raw comic books and the original stories and just seeing it on screen, I have a very hard time of like separating that hard distinction.
Yeah.
I like the films have definitely a different tone, but the characters all sort of blend for me.
I think what I like most about the trailer of this new Flash movie, I will see. Obviously, we'll wait to see what it's like when it comes out. But I like that it seems to balance humor with the seriousness, healthily. Like it looks like it doesn't seem like it's over the top one way or the other. It looks like it's just overall going to be a really good time, and that's been on like rewatches. And as much as I still like Marvel films, I'll still give them high reviews. I'm definitely burnt out on the
The
humor,
formula.
the formula.
Is this
and-
gonna be rated R?
I
No.
don't think so. No.
I feel like that is DC's secret to success, is if they go steer into more like true adult only content.
They could, but I mean that's part of the flack that they were getting for a little bit. Is
They were too dark.
It was
They were
too
too
dark. This looks like it's. I think too dark only works with Batman.
Well, and even
I
then,
think every other DC hero needs to be presented in the way this movie is going. But like, I think Batman is the only one that can get away with it.
but even then, I wouldn't say. To me, Batman is best when it's not too dark, and he is a dark character. Yes, he beats and breaks bones, whatever. But you have to get the moment right of he's also hope and an inspiration for people, right?
Well, that's not what I mean by dark. I don't mean like a dark hero. Like I mean like the overall tonality is
Gotcha.
dark. Like well, the Christopher Nolan films. You know, he's a beacon for hope. Batman. They honor him at the end with the statue and all that. But that doesn't mean that the tone of those films wasn't dark.
Yeah. Well, I
yeah.
just mean like
Was it
in
an
Zack Snyder's, he went too far with the Batman murdering and branding people. Like, I don't know. You take him a little too far. You can do that.
When did he brand someone?
He does.
He was
I don't remember that.
so in Batman versus
in the
Superman.
beginning.
When he was like trying to lure, well, not trying to, he wasn't trying to lure, but he had come out of retirement and he was getting like pissed off. And so he started branding criminals for the cops to let them know that Batman was the one that was like, so he would like beat the shit out of them, put the bat symbol like branded into their chest and then leave them there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I fucking liked that. I don't know why the problem. I'm not, okay, let me clarify. I am very much on the side of Batman does not kill. But I don't think that him branding people is, I like when he gets as far as he can without like one of my favorite lines in the Dark Knight Returns is, you know, when he's like, this isn't a mud hole, it's an operating table and I'm the surgeon. Like, that's the Batman I like, you know, the kind of scares the shit out of you. Like, I'm okay with him branding people. Like,
Branding, I guess I'd be okay with, but it was the
Permanently scarring.
The
I'm okay
killing.
with that.
well, as Batman, especially a retired Batman like he was coming back from it, I could see it.
but yeah, he was fucking killing people too.
He had guns.
Yeah.
Batman doesn't do guns. That's like his number one thing. Besides no killing. But I
It's because he was mixing like Thomas Wayne Batman and Bruce Wayne Batman. He was trying to get away with just doing it all in one character. And his whole rationale behind that, Zack Snyder, was like, this is a universe where Batman has lost everything. And like he had a whole thing behind it.
So let me ask you this, Kyle. Going back to Flash. What gave you faith in WB that this is going to be any better than Justice League?
You act as if like...
The only good scene from the Flash in the Justice League was cut. And we only got that because of...
okay, let me
Like, that's
say my
the-
piece. I never disliked... or I wasn't hyped for Justice League from the trailers. Even in the trailers, I remember thinking this doesn't look that great. But I don't think it's WB's fault that some of the best superhero movies of all time have been DC movies under WB's banner.
I heavily think it's executives at WB.
You don't think that it was the people making the films?
They
Who's
were
the original director?
Zack Snyder.
Joss
and
Whedon.
they-
Joss
Whedon
excuse
did
me.
the
But
remake.
It was Zack Snyder, and
wait,
then
the
they
remake.
had to.
Recut.
Zach had to leave because of his family, his daughter stuff happened, and they brought in Joss to refix it.
Okay, so he was thrown into a shit situation too because he's
No,
trying to-
Joss Whedon didn't fix it. He made it worse.
Or well, yeah, he was
But
given the task of finishing it.
Yeah, but that's kind of tough to step
all
in at
he had
that
to
point.
do was
Was it already shot and filmed?
It was already shot and filmed. All he had
Oh,
to do
that's
was
tough,
finish
dude.
the last 10 minutes, and just said he completely rewrote the whole movie. Joss Whedon fucked up.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I guess I don't know the full story, but that sounds like when you step in at that late for a creative vision, I can imagine how tough that is.
And he was really shitty to Gal Gadot.
Yeah, and the cyborg actor. There's a
Yeah.
whole bunch of drama there. But I know Joss Whedon messed up, but that's WB that made the decision of
Publishing it.
well, okay, you can reshoot.
Well, let me rephrase. I don't think that just because the property is owned by WB automatically means it's going to be a bad movie. There are more good movies than there are bad when it comes to movies that are owned by WB. All of the Christopher Nolan Batman films is WB. The Batman with Robert Pattinson was WB. Man of Steel is WB. All the Harry Potter movies are WB. It's not the same thing as like EA with a game. You know, it's not.
So I guess my question would be better framed. What gave you faith in the DC? Is that what they're calling these connected movies?
Well, I don't have faith in the DC extended universe with this movie. I think I'm looking at this as its own film.
But hold on. So you don't give WB credit for them allowing Zack to come in and retake over and fit like
that was
you don't
the
give
fans.
that was the fans
that
demanding
was
that.
insanely.
But to me, that's like
toxic fans.
that to me is crazy. Like ownership of we fucked up. We're gonna re-release the same film.
I don't think it was ownership of that. I think they had so much traffic online that they were like
They had to.
Zack Snyder's fans are really
toxic
passionate.
and
I wonder
passionate.
how many. I wonder how many public like studios that have old film like this started getting the idea of like, well, we just take the content and have a new director just re-edit it however they see fit. We have all these versions of whatever we want.
I think the main point I'm making is just because I see that it's owned by WB doesn't mean I don't think the problem's WB.
Okay, well then
There's a
DC
lot of
Extended
levels.
Universe.
There's a lot of levels before it's just WB. Like WB has a lot of really good
well then
products and
change the
IPs.
question to DC Extended Universe. What gave you the faith in them?
I just told you I don't have faith in I'm looking at this like it's a movie that's releasing that looks entertaining. You act as if I'm like, oh my god, the DC universe is saved.
Well,
no, I'm thinking this movie looks really good.
I'm just saying I'm speaking from past experience with the DC Extended Universe, and every time they're not all of them are horrible, but I've just been whelmed, not overwhelmed.
So you're going into that with the mindset of impress me.
Yeah.
Show me what you got.
There's
before
nothing
you
wrong
give
with
them-
that. I think
I
you're
see.
you're like upset that I'm not feeling that same
No.
way.
I just wanted to hear
But-
your
But I think you're
justification.
misunderstanding what I'm into. Like, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm thinking is going to be good about this movie. Like, you think that I'm looking at this and thinking, oh my God, the extended universe of films is saved. Like, I'm not looking at that like that at all. I'm looking at it in the same way that I would look at if a Robert Pattinson Batman, like that movie in itself, isolated from whatever plan they have for the future, looks good. I'm not like the extended universe DC looks amazing now. That hadn't crossed my mind at all.
That's not even how I'm looking at it, though.
Then I must be misunderstanding what you're asking me.
I'm not. I respect your opinion, and I'm not trying to get you to change your mind. I was just trying to understand where your faith is coming from that this will be good.
I kind of see what you're getting at because I feel like there's been, and I can't think of an example, but I think if I am interpreting what you're trying to say, Dylan, I think what he's saying is like, we have walked into projects before where we're like, for example, let's take a Mass Effect 4, for example, right? Like, I think you're going to be excited for a Mass Effect 4, but like, maybe you're a little hesitant and you're going to try and check that hype because you've been burned with Andromeda. Is that sort of the same flavor? And he's like, oh, you're sort of.
I think you're also
not checking that or
leveling
something.
my. I don't know if faith is the right word. I think you're misleveling my excitement for the movie. I am looking at this and thinking, wow, this looks like a fun, exciting movie. And if it's not, I'm going to be like, okay. But I don't think that I would say that I'm looking at this and automatically assuming, oh my God, this is God tier. Like, I'm definitely not. All I'm saying is based on the trailer, this looks like a fun movie. And I think you're thinking that I automatically assume it's going to be good.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I just because I think something looks good doesn't mean that I just assume that it is good. Like, I'm gonna be able to have the same opinions at the end of the
Are you
movie,
gonna change your mind at all, Kyle?
but like, like my excitement for a project is not. It's not me saying that I have faith that this is gonna be amazing. It's this looks good. You know, it's the same thing. Like, Diablo 4. Diablo 3 at launch was pretty bad. Blizzard has not had an amazing track record, but we can look at it and say this looks good. But if it's not at launch, sure, it'll be disappointing, but that doesn't change the fact that as it's coming up, we're saying this looks like it's going to be good and I'm excited. That's what I'm saying.
Justified. I get it.
That is an interesting perspective. I don't know.
I'd rather be
maybe-
excited than apprehensive.
Yeah. And maybe this is like, because I think Kyle prefaced this whole way is like, I think this is getting him a little excited for superhero movies because he's been burnt out with the whole Marvel stuff.
And
so,
Dylan's
like-
shitting on it.
And so he's like, this is sort of like this has a chance for him to maybe getting him excited once again for
The flame reignited.
Yeah, and so it's interesting. We have two deep lore fans here, and you're like, I'm scarred, and until you fix those wounds, I'm not going to give you any credit. And then we have like, I don't really give a shit. I'm just excited for the IP.
Yeah. I'd rather be excited about something than
Bring now that drama into
Yeah,
it.
like if something looks fun and it looks like a good time and it looks like a good movie, then I'm just going to let myself be excited about that.
Yeah. And as someone who can't figure out the difference between Marvel and DC, I am very indifferent. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have I don't know. Like the core MCU, that whole arc has me wrapped around its finger. Like especially like the core elements that go back to like the original All-Star team, right? Like Loki or Iron Man or whatever. This newer stuff I definitely have not been keeping up with. But I would love nothing more than DC to start putting some of those flavors into it and building into something interesting.
Like, I personally, and I think me and Kyle have talked about this, I think he's the same. Like DC, we like more when it comes to the comics.
They have better written
Characters.
certainly villains. I've always
And arcs and stories.
Yeah.
No.
But it's just,
That's so funny because, like, other than, I would have to say, like, Infinity War and maybe Endgame are probably, like, my favorite superhero movies of all time just because of how, I mean, they were just so fucking epic considering the weight of the full 10-year storytelling. But if you just take, like, single movie, I could pull any from the Batman Begins and what is it? Batman Begins.
The Nolan
Christian
trilogy.
Bale. Yeah, Christian Bale. That trilogy, I could pull out pretty much any of those and be like, this is like the second movie, The Dark Knight, right?
Yeah.
With Heath Ledger. That movie, in and of itself, just a solo film, might be my favorite superhero movie. It is, and talk about grounded. Like, there's really like no superpowers in that movie, but oh my freaking goodness, like that shit is the performances, the storytelling, the hatred, the anger, the emotions, like so real in those movies. I don't even know if there's a single joke in those movies, you know, versus like if
make a
Marvel made that
pencil
movie,
disappear.
There's
there'd
like,
be like fart jokes.
there's jokes in The Dark Knight, but it's all like for instance, when he's like, "What's the difference between me and you?" And he's like, "I'm not wearing hockey pads." You know, that's a joke.
Zoom, doom, doom, the
But
music
like,
kicks
even
in.
the jokes are like intense.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
So it is interesting. So like that's why for me, what I would like to see from DC is more of that adult, like I love those darker tones. And I think there's a place for it in the MCU to have like the sillier films, whether it's Ant-Man or Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever. But like I felt like that's what they did so well originally was they balanced those out. Like Iron Man 1, it was he was a slave, like he was a prisoner. And like he was held captive like for pretty much the whole movie, or half the movie at least. And then he breaks out and like it's him becoming like silly and witty and like building that character. It all just gelled so well. and I felt like, at least I have felt since Endgame, we have just steered into how do we hit the max audience? Well, let's just throw some silly humor and let's get jacked Hemsworth, on screen and make silly jokes and fat Zeus, and it's like
I'm also I'm over like I'm over everything being as big a threat as Endgame.
yeah.
And I like a part of me is like starting to just be really over the connected universe.
Billy doesn't like that though. Remember, he hates the small stuff.
Well, I've said repeatedly that I love small stuff, but
Me too.
like I'm over. I kind of miss when superheroes were all just their own stories.
That's why I liked Hawkman so much, or
Hawkeye?
Hawkeye.
Yeah,
Hawkman.
Hawkman. That's DC.
that's DC.
There's actually a Hawkman.
Yeah, he was in Black Adam.
He's it's like a whole species or something, but he flies around.
Hawkman.
He's got giant wings.
Yeah, I
The-
don't know. I've said my piece on. I feel like we've hit a power level now to where like I don't want Hawkeye. I'm sorry, sir. Just move it along. Like you don't have a Black Widow. Thank you.
Well,
You-
that's
you're-
what I
well, thank
mean
you.
because there's these
That
like,
power creep that's
there's
occurred,
power like it like The Dark Knight, for example, as you've said, one of the best hero movies, superhero movies of all time. That kind of movie cannot exist in the MCU.
Not
Yeah,
it
in
can't.
2023.
It can't exist in the MCU, and so they've shot themselves in the foot. They
Yeah.
can't have stories like that anymore because it just wouldn't make any fucking sense.
And then they try to do like to service, I guess, me, and they come out with the Eternals, and then it kind of flops, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
As
Was
long
it
as
James
they-
Gunn that said it's like really hard to do a superhero movie ever since Endgame?
It might have been.
Might have
I
been.
I think he was
did.
talking specifically about Guardians 3 though. He said Guardians 3 was the hardest because he had to consider all the things that happened after Endgame.
So that'll be his last Marvel movie, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
done. He's with Marvel and
Speaking of Guardians, looks like they just had a new trailer. I don't think any of us has watched it. It came out since you guys have been over at my house, but
I watched that.
oh, you already did?
Yeah, that was more than 4 hours ago. I think I watched it on Reddit.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I saw that too.
What do you guys? I'm really excited for this one because I want to
I am.
go. I'm excited for Rocket's backstory.
I'm just excited for the reasons we were saying. Is it looks like a darker, more serious
Tone, yes.
tone with they handle the comedy and the tone.
Mhm.
It's
It's
from
balanced
the
with the
trailers,
character.
It looks like it's balanced.
It's balanced with the character, like Robert Downey Jr. and the guy who Chris Pratt. I think they have that ability to be serious and silly at the same time, and it comes across the screen like as natural. Like Hemsworth, I don't know if that like him saying like these silly, it just doesn't really fit. I don't know what it is, but like I maybe they are going to take a more serious tone with this. At least that's what it looks like.
I think
and
that
I'm-
was less to do with Hemsworth and
It's
more to
just
do with
directing.
Taika
'Cause-
Waititi.
Look at Hemsworth in Extraction. That's like a fully serious role.
And
He did really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did really good.
Well, I'm really excited for the new soundtrack. They do such a good job with their music. It's the best in any film. I'll dare say it. I think ever. Like I know some films come up with their own OC, like original soundtrack and stuff, and that's great in and of itself for sure.
Like the best licensed soundtrack.
Yes, I think they're just so much fun. Like you
I-
could just throw them on and listen to them, and it's fun.
Yeah, I love movies with licensed soundtracks.
Yeah.
And especially like I really liked Suicide Squad 1. I didn't think it was horrible like some people, but I loved the licensed soundtrack for that just because I don't know, it feels like they mix stuff up and you learn new songs that you've never heard before. So,
Well, and it makes those songs like come to life again. Like you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, this is a great song, and then they trend on the billboards and stuff like that. How do you think they're gonna? So the the soundtrack in 2, he got mail at the very very end of the first movie from his mom, right? Or he never opened a box,
the
right?
present.
And then that had the second volume. How do you think he's gonna get his third?
He got a Zune at the end of 3. Or
Yeah.
at the end of 2.
And he's like,
There
there's
you go.
600 songs on it. He's like, what the fuck?
I forgot about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's perfect then. Oh, that's so cool.
That'll allow it to go into other generations besides the 80s too,
Mhm.
because it's more up to date. So
Who dies, you think?
I hope Peter does.
You hope.
Yeah, I'd like to see a nice
Wrap
honorable
up.
send off, wrap up to a story. Sounds really shitty when I say that out loud.
Yeah.
But
I hope he dies.
Him
and
Drax,
Gamora.
Drax, I
is
feel
done.
like for sure.
Yes, for
Drax
sure.
is done because he's done.
Yeah.
He's
What's
done.
the guy that plays him?
Batista.
Thank you.
He's tired of maintaining that physique.
He's
Fucking,
like 60.
like in his late 50s.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't even think he has that physique anymore. You notice he's wearing a shirt
Yeah.
in all the trailers.
Well, because he came out like 4 years ago saying he was like tired of being, and they hadn't even like, were they in the middle of filming or something, or they hadn't even started?
Originally, he quit when James Gunn got fired, and then he came back, and it was this whole big drama, which that makes me a little worried about like the quality of the movie itself, because there's a lot of behind the scenes drama that happened with that. I think it'll be good.
What if he
I
won?
think that
What
was
if
really early in.
what if he tanks
How
this
early was
film
it?
to then get people to watch DC?
I don't think he'd do
No,
that.
He would get sued.
Yeah. Well, and plus, I think
Just kidding.
he's really close friends with like Kevin Feige, and I think like
He's also one of the producers, so he makes money if this
Yeah.
movie makes money.
So he sits down like at the beginning of the film, just like Tom Cruise did at the beginning of Top Gun. He's like, "Hey, everybody, thanks for coming and enjoying our film. Be sure to subscribe or be sure to watch my new DC film."
I don't even think that he's going to be directing in DC movies.
he said he's going to direct the first one.
Is he?
Superman.
Ooh,
Okay.
he's gonna kick it off, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Because he took on the role of like Kevin Feige, which means he's just like the puppet master.
Mm-hmm. But he said the first one he's going to write and direct. So that's a lot, honestly.
We'll see. I'm not like some people are like, oh my god, James Gunn, he's a god. Like I like Guardians. Don't get me wrong. Guardians 2 is one of my favorite of that generation of Marvel
Mhm.
movies. But like I'm not like I'll wait to see like what the trailer looks like.
Yeah.
If
Mo-
Superman looks good in the trailer, then again I'll be hyped for it.
It's that
But-
hive mind mentality because they did the same thing with Taika Waititi. Where
Yeah.
it was like, this guy is everything he's done. He's done some like weird shit before, and then
Yeah.
he did what he did with Love and Thunder.
Well, all he did with Thor and I actually was one of the few people that didn't like Ragnarok.
I'm right
liked,
there with you, dude.
I liked parts of it, but like everyone fucking loved that movie.
I thought it was too silly given what the fuck we were watching.
Yeah, I remember like I didn't actually even know Dylan at this time. It's because it came out before we were friends. But I remember at my old location I worked at, I was talking with one of my coworkers, and he was like, "Oh my god, it was so good!" And I remember thinking like, "Am I just in the minority here?" Like I didn't like it that much.
Dude,
it was too silly.
His dad dies. His planet blows up. Like Loki hides his dad, basically kills him, like because he's becomes depressed and loses his power and shit like that. And he's like in a play being played by Matt Damon, and like it was just I was like,
my initial
God.
my initial gut reaction to Thor 4 was actually higher than Thor Ragnarok.
Love and Thunder.
Which Love and Thunder. I actually coming fresh out of the theaters of that one, I actually had a much better impression of
Yeah.
that movie than I did of Ragnarok, which is the exact opposite of a lot of people. But yeah, that everyone was like, "Oh my god, Taika Waititi," and I felt mostly like he was just ripping off James Gunn when Thor Ragnarok came out. I was like, "This is like I feel like he's
I agree.
just." And
Trying
I
to
think
copy
maybe
that
because it was
formula.
such a huge tonal shift as well that I was like, there was no gradualness; it just happened. But that's
Jane.
I'm
my
definitely
God,
just in
dude.
the minority on that because everyone loves Ragnarok. But
Yeah, no.
I like Ragnarok. But I'm the minority here.
I
so.
I didn't dislike it, but I was very like I just didn't feel like the tone matched the epicness of what was going on. Like this destroyer of worlds named Hela just nukes through the entire Asgardian army, and like everything breaks down. Everything is lost, and it's like holy shit.
the best version of Thor we ever got was Thor in Infinity War. That was
Yeah.
his peak, and then he just I don't know.
Then Endgame happens. Endgame, he's still pretty good because you can see he's emotionally impacted. And
I am not a huge. I don't get me wrong. I love Endgame, but one of the things I have to get over every time is I kind of feel like they make a joke out of his PTSD.
Out of
Yeah.
his, yeah.
You know, rather than like he still has some really heartfelt moments, especially with his mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like more often than not, his PTSD was kind of
Used as a joke.
used as a joke, and it wasn't treated as seriously as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, I'm playing Fortnite and I'm fat now. And, yeah.
But dude, in Infinity War, oh my god, when like just the hype when he gets Stormbreaker and he uses summons the
Where's the
Bifrost to land on Earth, and everyone's like, holy shit, and he wipes out that whole army in like 10 seconds.
Dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the fucking Thor that people want, you know? Like,
Yes.
what happened?
Dude. And then it ends the way like, oh, such a good movie. It ends the way it does. Like, you see the power boost happens. They have everything in place. The axe hits him. You're like, yeah. And it's like, wait a minute. All he needs to do is he just needs to snap.
gone for the head.
And then he snaps.
It's still crazy, though, that Stormbreaker is that powerful that he was able to...
Summon the Bifrost.
Well, cut
Well,
through
no,
the
he-
infinity beam.
So
Yes.
Thanos shot the Infinity Beam right at Thor, and Thor just blew through it. Like, I think we're underestimating how powerful Thor could actually be. You know,
Dude, he has like he in a lot of cases, in my opinion, is a very bad example of like scaling his powers, because there's times where you're like, what are you doing? And then there's other times where he's like just ungodly, like God level OP. And you're like, what are we doing here? Like, you know, and that's something that we did get out of Ragnarok, where it was like, are you the, you know, God of hammers or the God of thunder? Like, and so you start to see he's like still finding his powers, but by the time he gets Stormbreaker, dude, it's like, all right, you got it figured out. And then
he's like 4,000 years old, and he's
Yeah.
still finding
Yeah.
himself.
and then he's got like Zeus's bolt, and then he summons his own Thor army, and now it's just like, oh, all right, what the fuck are we doing, dude?
Well, now apparently he has the power to bless weapons the way Odin did. And
I don't understand it.
And
I mean, that kind of makes sense. If Odin can do it, why couldn't he?
no, I'm just
But
saying
Odin-
he can. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that's another example of like he's either like God levels of power or not.
Yeah.
And you're
Isn't
trying to-
Odin like by all means more powerful than Thor?
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
He's more powerful than Thor. He's more powerful than Hela, who was way more powerful than Thor.
Yeah.
He at the height of Odin's power, he was one of the most powerful beings in the universe.
What made Odin so powerful? Because he didn't wield any of the.
I think
Infinity
it's something to
Stones.
do with Asgards get more powerful the older they are, and he was just so fucking
He
old.
was just the oldest.
Yeah, something like that.
Or he didn't we also look it up like him, and that he was like one of the 3 chosen.
He's
What was that
a
called?
special being. What's
Yeah.
it called?
It was like the stretchy guy's
Son.
son,
Yeah, there's certain
and then the
so
Scarlet
Odin,
Witch, right?
Scarlet Witch,
Yeah.
Reed Richards' son, and there's like one other one that
They're
are like,
prime beings. Or,
Yeah, something like
yeah.
that. They have something imbued in them that they're just like marked as OP. God, are we done with Scarlet Witch?
no.
I hope not.
I feel like there's so much they could do with
They
that
could. They
character.
could bring her back, and they could do like her.
They love to play with that.
redemption
Like,
arc.
yeah, exactly. That Loki, right? Bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad.
Hers
See?
is pretty.
Am I-
Hers is pretty.
Hers
pretty
is
bad.
hers is a lot of bad. It
Yeah.
is- where's my vision at? I need my vision, dude. Come on.
I just
She'll be-
remember
he will keep her in check. You know what I mean?
He's been discovering himself that for years now.
debating
like-
with himself,
Yeah.
philosophizing.
He has like this instant realization that like his sole objective is now overwritten. He's not going to kill him. He just flies away to think. And it's like, wait a minute here.
Maybe he saw the trajectory that she was going on, didn't want to be a part of it. He's like, I'm
"Oh,
out of here.
She's crazy.
I don't know, man. I liked WandaVision, but that it still kills me at the end of that when what's her name was like, these people
Monica.
will never know what you did for them. I'm like, what the fuck? She like imprisoned them for like,
Monica Rambo.
Yeah, not a.
I remember watching
She's coming back,
WandaVision. I remember watching WandaVision and being like, dude, she is a villain.
100%.
And everyone I talked to was just like, no, she's a complex character. She's not.
She's going through things.
And I was like, no, she's a fucking villain. And then in
Because when they snap out of it, like those people were panicked, man.
I do still think she's a complex character, even though she is a villain, though. Like,
you can be complex and villain, but they use that as an excuse to justify her villainness.
yeah, she was pretty bad.
Rambo's coming back in the
The
next-
Marvels.
The Marvels.
That one I am excited for. You know, I'm gonna say that this is
Are they doing the Power Broker thing on that one?
no. This is Kyle's. I understand his feeling towards Flash. Just the trailer looks fun to me. So I get it.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that makes me not want to watch the Marvels.
It's the Power Broker. That's the name of it, right? Or it's
No.
it's the broker. What is it? The
No,
the thing from the next Captain America. What it's going to be based off? The chick that.
That's the Power Broker. But this has nothing to do with that.
Yeah. So, but the next Captain America will.
Yeah. Most likely, we haven't really heard. I don't think.
Has it even been It's been announced.
It's been
right?
announced. It's probably gonna just star Sam and Bucky again.
Yeah.
But Bucky, God.
The problem with Bucky is they need to give him something to do.
Give it. Thank you. Make him interesting.
Make
I'm,
him-
I'm over this internal crisis. All right, dude. Shit or get off the pod. Like, that's not interesting character detail, right? Like, I need something to go off of.
Well, and Steve was a shitty friend, to be honest. Why did he travel back in time and not take Bucky with him?
Did he? Well, they said they talked about it.
Oh,
They didn't show, but in the series, in the TV show, Bucky said him and Steve talked about it before he left. So there's a whole lot of things that you could infer there, like
why wouldn't Bucky want to go back?
because what life would he have had?
He has no life now.
He wouldn't have a life then.
He's
Yeah.
the White Wolf now. What do you mean? He's farming in Wakanda or whatever the fuck.
And
Not
now
anymore.
he's shacked up with Sam's sister. So
Oh, that's even weirder. Yeah.
can't leave.
I don't know.
I liked it as a series. Falcon and Winter Soldier. I like that as a series. I don't know how I feel about it as a movie though.
To me, that one, out of all the Marvel shows I watched, that one probably rates the lowest.
I would agree.
You know, weirdly,
The Flag Smash.
I wasn't a huge fan of Loki.
Wow, you gonna take that, Billy?
No, I can't. To each their own, but god dang, I fucking.
So,
simped
would you say
so
that's
hard to that.
below Loki or above Loki?
Maybe because I watched Loki so late after it took me forever to finally watch it. I liked Loki, but it wasn't like I wasn't like excited like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to watch the next episode." But I also think there's other factors at play there. By the time I watched Loki, I was kind of feeling that Marvel fatigue because I watched it way later. And when I watched Falcon and Winter Soldier was when I was still like fully
Hyped.
Marvel amped, you know. So I don't know. I think you got to consider the context at the stage in my life of when I watched both. You know, if I'd have watched Loki at launch, I probably would have liked it a lot more. But I already had the Marvel fatigue in my mind going into it, so I think that's what caused me
You
to
didn't
not
have
like
the
it.
Sigma grind set mindset
Yeah, of Marvel
of
films.
Marvel films.
And I mainly just watched it because I was like, well, I got to know what's going on with all this fucking Kang shit, so I might as well just watch this. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It was good for sure, and it's obviously did the best out of all of them. That's the one
Yeah.
that people still talk about.
Getting to season 2?
Getting a season
Coming
2.
soon.
Ki-Hee Kwan is gonna
Yep.
be in it.
Who's
that guy
Was
I
he from
like.
Shang-Chi?
No,
No.
he's from he's Short Round from Indiana Jones.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was in Everything Everywhere
Yeah,
All
yeah.
at Once.
But he's playing a character in Loki season 2.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. That's going to be a lot of fun. When are we getting, what's going on with the Shang-Chi, introduction? They introduced a lot of shit with that, and
They said they're working on number 2.
are they just going to do, they're not going to do, some TV series, or?
No, I don't see why they would need to. The
Yeah, I
movie
don't
was
know.
successful, and
The movie was, probably the most successful that they've had since.
Well, especially
Avengers.
COVID. It broke records for like COVID movies.
No, Spider-Man was the.
Oh, you're
That
right.
one made,
you're
like,
right. You're right. You're right.
1.1
I always forget
billion.
about that one because that one's meaningless to me.
That one made the most money since COVID.
Dude,
For Marvel, it is. Avatar still has that title now. Avatar
Shang-Chi
2.
was. So let me ask you this: that one is different. Is that one different for you? Like, do you have the same Marvel fatigue when you watch the Shang-Chi? Because for me, it was so different.
No, the standouts of this, ever since Endgame, the standouts for me have been Shang-Chi, Spider-Man. As far as movies goes, those are the last two
Yeah.
that I was like, holy fuck. This is so good.
There were no characters in Shang-Chi from the larger universe, right?
Wong and Abomination.
Yeah.
Very short.
Very short, but other than that, like it was mainly around the.
Well, and
the
I feel
characters,
like,
right.
I mean, I've out of everyone here, I've seen Shang-Chi the most. I watched
Oh,
it like
God, yeah.
7 times.
I know you set records.
I feel like I love that movie so much more than other Marvel movies because I felt like they mixed up the formula enough, whereas like Ant-Man and Thor: Love and Thunder, they feel like they're relying too much on the formula.
Yeah, they feel like sequels.
Yeah. And this felt fresh, this felt new, and it felt like a perfect balance between comedy and seriousness. Like there's scenes in that movie that get me pretty close to teary-eyed. Like with his dad and the whole like at near the end part where they finally forgive each other and then he dies and I'm like, man.
Yeah.
And that guy's an awesome actor.
I think
Yeah.
that solidifies my point I was trying to make with like I think they're so concerned on the larger universe that they're losing focus on the movie they're making.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they aren't worried about that, like, Spider-Man and Shang-Chi, both of those movies are very like centered on just their thing.
Well,
I mean, you could argue that Eternals was as well.
I was just thinking that, but I don't. It was and it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the issue with Eternals is that it
felt too.
it felt too disconnected from reality. Like
I
that's
come from
even
a weird point because I liked Eternals.
Yeah, I liked Eternals. I'm trying to think of how I can describe it because I don't even know if I can come up with a word for how I view it. But it was just like the characters, since none of them are human, they didn't seem human, and they just kind of felt weird to watch.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Yeah,
I'm
it's hard.
almost more upset that there's not that there was no outside Marvel in Eternals, more that anything that happened in Eternals hasn't been referenced in Marvel. Like, are we
Yeah.
not going to talk about fucking the giant ass hand in the ocean? Like,
half a face.
Are we not going to talk about that, time when the Celestial leaned in onto Earth? No one's going to mention this. Like, that's the problem with
'Cause
having all these interconnected
Yes.
stories is it makes things seem weird when they're not referenced. And then you also have this obligation to reference things. And it's like, I hate that they have to concern themselves with that all the time.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? They had to find ways to mention, like, they had to clarify why they didn't get involved with Thanos, and they have, and like why they're choosing to get involved now, and they're only there to fight the the Dark Dimension or the
Deviants.
Deviants, yeah. So and then,
There you
but
go.
then the whole like Kyle said, I totally forgot about the fucking hand coming, like, which means that there's like a celestial within our planet or something, or
A
like
dead Celestial.
yeah, right? Like, holy shit. Are we being serious right now? Why are we not addressing this? His hand was the size of the Pacific Ocean. So.
Did you find any of the main heroes likable?
Yes.
The blind one, right?
I liked
was
You
the
mean
blind
the
one?
deaf one?
The deaf one, thank you.
the guy that died.
Icarus?
No, not Icarus.
Icarus didn't die?
He flew into the sun.
Bro, yeah, because he's Superman.
No, God, what is that guy's name? Just the strong, like the Asian guy.
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh. I liked Gilgamesh a lot, and he dies. And I liked I connected
Selma.
with that story. Not connected, but I did appreciate that story they had with the woman that was in the girl's body. What is her name?
Pixie, the little one.
Yeah, she's fully grown, but she's in a child's
Yeah,
body.
Pixie.
I liked her because what?
Keep going.
I liked her because I did feel for her, like with the whole, especially when they equated it to the Peter Pan story. Like she was in love with Icarus, but
Because
he
she's a
would
child.
he would never love her back. It's the same way that Tinkerbell was in love with Peter Pan. But Peter Pan wouldn't love Tinkerbell back. So like, I liked that approach to it. Not saying that I wanted her to win at the end or anything. She was obviously on the wrong side, but I thought that she was an interesting character. She was written well.
Okay, my face was more towards in that movie, not her character, but how they treat her character is my least favorite part. I hate how forgiving they are, or just how, like, in the end she backstabs and they're like, "Yeah, it's okay." No, I would have like, I don't know. If I would have written it, she would have gotten beat up.
Yeah, I didn't really consider that.
Well,
when
I feel
was talking
like
about it.
I
but-
feel like, but these people have been together for like eons. Right?
Yeah, and so she betrays all of them for the one guy.
if you've been friends with someone for 1,000 years,
Yeah, I
and
don't know.
she had a moment of weakness,
But
and they came
enough
back.
to
don't there-
stab the only one that cared about her in the back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I'm
I
trying-
just, like I said, the character, yeah, that's interesting. I like the whole concept of like Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, but I just felt like how they handled the betrayal really pissed me off. They could have written it better, and I probably would have been okay with it. But how they wrote it, I did not like. Especially in the end, Cersei's nice to her, and I'm like, you did not deserve this at all. Where she's like, I'll turn you into human. I'm like, no. I was like, you should be in jail.
Yeah, I guess it worked on me because I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that poor girl. That's what I was thinking.
The whole time you're like, oh yeah, make her human.
No, well, they literally just they made her human so that if they do have a sequel, if she ages, it's not,
Weird.
yeah.
we talk about this every time, and I'm just so adamant. I want a fully dedicated villain movie. That is literally, you don't even like. There's not even like a cameo of good. It's just like the evil enemy, like villains, and you learn about like their high-ranking officers and how they run the show, and like I want that so bad.
That's the Joker movie,
Exactly, to like where.
but about a supervillain.
Yeah, about a supervillain, and to where when there's like the big battle, there's like the community is so split on who should kill who should survive, who should defect to the other side.
Do you have a good example of a movie?
That's ever done that?
Yeah.
No, I don't even
'Cause
know
I
if it's
feel
ever been
like-
tried.
I almost feel like the only one you'd be able to do is a villain origin story. I don't think you could do a villain movie.
Why not? Why not?
I'm not
if
saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's really hard not to come off as cheesy.
American Psycho.
there has been. I was literally going there. There
But
is.
that's kind of an origin story.
Yeah, but
Like I'm saying, like
most of the movie is spent with him just fucking murking.
you
people.
can't see, like, in my mind, if you were to see some, villain with his henchmen, that gets cheesy pretty fast. Like, as far as, what do you want me to do, boss? Well,
No, but it wouldn't be. That's how it's portrayed in movies because they have to be, because it's always reduced to that level. Well, he has to be the true antagonist, right? So we're just gonna have like this leader who's way more powerful than everyone. Like Lord of the Rings, for example. Sauron, he's the most powerful being, and all the orcs simp to him, and no one questions it because he's by far the most powerful, right? And it's very black and white. What about like it can be an origin story, but like where Thanos is you see the heartbreak that he has on Titan and the decisions he made, and you see that his race deteriorating, and then you see him he kind of finds out about the Infinity Stones and how he wants to gain power to fulfill this vision, and he collects these the frozen the maw, what is the frozen maw, what is this,
just the maw.
just the maw, and then the whole Black Order people with the the one chick, the guy with the scythe. That
Mm-hmm.
when you read the lore on that scythe, that shit is so cool. And then you've got the Doomsday knockoff guy or whatever. I don't know what his name is.
But
Like setting that whole thing up where it's not just like, what do you need, boss? Like where you see like he convinces them to work with him. He gets Gamora. He's killing these civilizations, and not only like it's not something that you ever agree with, but you witness it, and you either like you grow to hate him or you fall in love with his subs. I don't know.
But I'm saying you could do an origin film. I don't think you could do one not origin and just have him be like. I don't think you could jump into the middle
Where he's already in
in control. Yeah. So I would, like I said,
probably agree.
The Joker origin works.
It depends on who the villain's about, but I could see, The Last of Us Part 2 style, where they have a movie and the villain, he's the main villain of the movie, and then he kills, one of the main characters at the end of the movie, and then the next movie stars the villain.
Yeah.
I could see that. I think that might work. I don't think that would not work. I think it just depends on. You couldn't do that with a villain like like Thanos. You couldn't.
Yeah.
It would have to be. I think it couldn't be like a top tier. It would have to be like a mid-level villain, like a Zemo movie.
And I think it'd have to be a solo villain.
They could still
my
make
opinion.
a movie about Zemo, and that
Yeah.
wouldn't be an origin. It's already been established.
Because they already sort of do this. Like Loki has had movies where he's not necessarily the good guy, but then they force him back to being the good guy, and that's just where they take the story. But imagine where there is no redemption of this character. It's just he's going to be evil, and then they have this epic battle where people on Twitter and stuff they can sit there and go, okay, this team needs to win, but I want to see this general, whatever, the Maw, be converted to being a good guy. I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of fun that you could have there. I bring it up all the time.
I
but
looked up a
fuck.
list of
Like villain movies.
villain movies. Some of these, like you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that. But like Wolf of Wall Street,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
he's the villain. American Psycho, we talked about that already.
Mm-hmm.
Reservoir Dogs.
Some of these are considered to be the greatest movies of all time.
There's a bunch of Fight Club.
Mm-hmm.
Natural Born Killers. Michael Corleone in The Godfather.
There you fucking go.
He's not a.
There you fucking go.
Arthur Fleck as Joker, of course, and then the number one movie, Tony Montana in Scarface. He's a villain.
There you go.
Oh, The Shining. Forgot about The Shining. That
Yeah.
follows. Yeah,
I don't know if I never seen the full movie of the.
it follows Jack
yeah.
Nicholson, his perspective
Descent into
and his
madness.
descent into madness, and he kills his.
Yeah, I mean,
Actually, I don't know. Does he even kill anyone in that movie? He just tries to, and then he
Yeah.
gets frozen.
Oh, I thought he did.
It's been so long since I've seen that
it's
movie.
been a while.
I don't think he kills anyone though. I think he tried. He might have killed some no-name person, but yeah.
I just think it'd be tough. I think it's doable, but the organization part I think would be the toughest part, and not make it look cheesy. Like you could do a solo villain, and I'm totally sold on that. But the moment you start to get like an organized villain, I feel like
Without henchmen, it would make sense.
yeah, without henchmen you could do it. With henchmen, it kind of gets a little rough.
Imagine a villain that isn't necessarily evil. Let's
But
say.
then we're losing it.
Hold on. Hear me out though.
Okay.
Let's say it's an Odin type level guy who he's not as powerful or whatever, but he believes to his core that he has the right to claim ownership of Earth, and so it follows his story of why he's the rightful heir to rule Earth or whatever. I don't fucking know, but it shows all that. So it's not like he wants to, extort his power over Earth or whatever, but he wants to protect it and guard it from the evils. And he thinks like the Avengers are destroying their cities or whatever, and they pitch it like that the Avengers are actually bad. And they make this guy who is not like the stereotypical antagonist where he's all bad, but he has these flavors of like, oh, this is what he's trying to institute. I feel like that could be a lot of fun to play with. the dynamics there.
But still the henchmen. That's my main issue.
But why do they have to be? Look at the henchmen in the Avengers. Those are technically henchmen. Why couldn't they pitch and create a style of movie where the henchmen were interesting characters like that, and they all were just following a purpose?
So if they do it like that and it's not no name like thugs, then okay. But so they would have to be really well developed characters to where
I
you
agree.
can believe that they would follow.
And that's what I'm saying. Like the what do they call them? The Black Order. It's the Black Order, right? For
Thanos is like,
yeah. The Dark Order, the
For-
Black Order. Isn't it the
I think
Black Order? I think. Does that sound familiar?
I think it's Black Order.
Squidward.
Squidward, yeah.
I think it's that. But I read the lore after that movie because I was like, this is like when Vision said, I don't know what that scythe is made out, and then they just didn't ever mention it ever again. I was like, what the fuck is it made out of? Like he couldn't phase through it. He was totally helpless, that thing. The lore was like 6 pages on the wiki. It was crazy. I'm like, this is fucking cool. This is a whole movie that they could do of this guy getting this weapon and, and like using it to be a part of this Thanos' army. Like, if they did it in that way, where the characters were not just big brutes that were like, yeah, boss, then they
Okay,
were
boss.
interesting.
They all have like New
Totally
York
agree.
accents.
Right.
They're
You got it, boss.
aliens.
I don't know.
I think
And the evidence, you just gave a list
Yeah.
of some of the...
no, that they could easily do it.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't think that they would have a hard time doing it at all. I think that in order for that to work, you would have to give all of the characters substance and depth. Like they couldn't be just stupid henchmen.
You wouldn't want to do a Suicide Squad type thing, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, we're introducing all these semi-interesting characters. Good luck. Fall in love
Yeah,
with
you
them
could
in
maybe
5
have
minutes.
like 4.
You know
with
what
the
I
main
just
villain
thought
and then
of?
3 underneath.
You know how cool they would never do this, but you know how cool a movie would be if it was like they took an existing movie and then they just released another one, but it was from the perspective of the villain.
Could you imagine if they did like
Ooh.
leading up to Infinity Game as Thanos? Like
So-
you said, where he
so-
collects the Black Order.
There you
and-
go. Or we see the invasion for the Power Stone, right? So it's the exact same timeline, but it's flipped, right?
Or even like a movie like The Dark Knight from the Joker's perspective.
Fuck.
Can you imagine? That would be fucking dark as hell.
Yeah,
if
that'd
they
be
showed it from the Joker's perspective. But like just, like or like Silence of the Lambs from Hannibal Lecter's point
oh
of view.
God.
Now it's getting to be too intense, but I think that like the only movie I've ever seen where they kind of did that, but it wasn't like a heroes versus villains. It was like real life. Was Clint Eastwood made the Flags of Our Fathers, which is about World War II, and then he made Letters from Iwo Jima, which is about that same fight but from the Japanese perspective, and he released them like back to back. And that was the only time they've ever kind of explored that. And I'm not trying to paint, as the Japanese as villains, but that's the only time I've ever like seen
Two
a movie
sides.
where they released a whole movie. First they did the American side, and then they released another whole movie from the Japanese side about the same thing. And that was really interesting.
Yeah,
That's
I'd be down.
So I've been watching Band of Brothers from HBO like 20 years ago, and there's this scene where that show does such a phenomenal job because they do like real life interviews, and then they blend the mini series around it. And there's like this scene I think in the last episode of the series where they had captured this large sort of German battalion, and this German officer, like seemingly high ranking, he was dressed to the nines, had asked to give one last speech to his men before I guess they like leave to go off to their normal lives or whatever happened post World War II. And they translated the speech, like they had one of the characters, American character, translating the speech to the other Americans, and it was exactly like what you would expect a good leader for like just being at war would say. It had nothing to do with the fatherland or Nazis or Germany or anything like that. It was just about, brothers, it's been an honor serving with you. Like, you deserve a life of peace. We've all cried together. We've lost together. It was like this bonding moment, and you kind of, it breaks down those barriers of
Yeah.
like, there's so much more to characters and stuff like that than just, how they're
Evil.
Yeah, exactly. And I always hate that. And I've talked about this relentlessly, especially on this podcast and definitely offline with you guys. One of my biggest pet peeves is when, and they do this all the fucking time, when they give like these cool, really cool, interesting villains, and then their army is just mindless fucking zombies.
Yeah.
Thanos had him with the little fucking ravaging rats or whatever you want to call them. Like, they do this all the time where it's just like absolute mindless, basically stormtroopers. And you're just like, what? Give me something interesting.
Well, they do that so you have the big grand scale fights.
I get it. And you have no remorse when they're mowing through millions of them.
Yeah.
That way, yeah, you don't think about it too much when they're all getting slaughtered.
So I'm gonna go theory crafting here.
Hit me.
I want to hear your guys' idea on this. So imagine they do that with a film, right? They take a film, they flip the perspective, and it's gonna be the villain side. Throughout the film, there's little differences, like tiny. You have to be paying real attention to tell.
Because of the propaganda?
No.
Oh.
Well, it could. So they could do that. That's a whole nother discussion because of propaganda. Or there's little differences at the end. It subverts your expectations and he wins, and it's like revealed as like a separate timeline or like a
Oh, a little shift.
yeah. What do you guys think about that? I was thinking about that because so there's an anime that I like called Neon Genesis, and the original show came out in the 90s, and then they did remakes of the movies. And they didn't flip perspective, but the remakes, why I love them so much is they made 4 movies. The first movie is just like the 90s. Second movie, all of a sudden there's little changes, and you're like, what's going on here? Third movie totally flips the bill, and you're like, what the heck? And then the fourth is like just, completely brand new ground. And I really enjoyed that, like, you go into it thinking it's just a remake, and it's like, no, we're just like,
We're iterating.
yeah, we're iterating on what you loved, and we're taking it in a whole new direction. And I wonder if that would work with something with like,
Certainly works with the multiverse, right?
yeah,
I almost thought like Endgame for me will always be, I don't know. You go into Endgame knowing that the Avengers have to win, right? Because they already lost, right?
mm-hmm.
And I think you probably go into most movies thinking the good guys are going to win because that's just how 99% of movies go. But you knew going into that one that Thanos was going to lose. So no matter what, you were waiting for that big epic moment where, they just mow him down and take care of business. But it would be interesting to like an Endgame type thing where like he lost or he won again.
Well, yeah, like imagine in
That'd be so fuck. Everybody came back, and then he snaps again, and it's like it's the other 50%, right?
He even said he's gonna kill them all.
like when Iron Man goes to maybe to do the thing, he just like breaks his hand in that moment. You're like, oh, what?
Yeah.
And it changes it up. Or when
Then I feel like that's drifting away from the original idea of it, and it's just turning into what if.
yeah,
You
which
know?
it would be,
Yeah, which is nothing wrong with that. I think that would be really cool. That just means that we need to have a what if season 2,
Which they announced, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
they did.
and
It
they need
actually
to do
might
some.
even be out.
They need to do some No, it's not out yet.
No?
No
No.
way. I would have watched it.
Oh,
That's
not
the one-
fatigued for that.
That was probably my favorite show. That was of all
I
the
only
shows.
could get into I got into most of them, not all of them. Some of them I was like, eh. But I think that's just me with animation. But
I want What If to get even crazier. I want him like that, like Thanos wins the second
I would
time.
love that
I would love to see what happens if that happened.
from his perspective too. Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. I wanted this is gonna be crazy, like side tangent from where we were, but I had a question back when we were talking about DC for Kyle, and then Billy. I don't know, you might not.
I love
know
how
enough about
I
it.
tried to make this a DC podcast, and somehow we got pulled over.
I
into
know.
That was me when I couldn't figure out that Magneto was.
You're like, I'm so silly. I can't believe I did that. Speaking of Marvel,
yes,
it was all part of the plan.
pivot.
But Kyle, what out of all the DC arcs, which one would you want to see brought to the movie screen?
Oh, jeez.
Like, do you have a favorite that you would want to see?
A lot of my favorite arcs are Batman arcs. So that's
Same.
that's the problem is Batman's been done to death in the movies.
But none of his good like okay, well no, that's not true. But his arcs haven't been done justice in my opinion.
Yeah.
The good one.
A lot of the movies have been inspired by arcs, but they haven't actually straight up done it. Like The Dark Knight Rises was inspired by The Dark Knight Returns, but it was also inspired a little bit by, what's it called, Nightfall, when Bane breaks Batman's back and all that. And then even Ben Affleck's Batman was inspired by The Dark Knight Rises.
Batman v Superman.
Batman vs Superman. That was a lot of The Dark Knight Rises. But man, I really like Flashpoint a lot. That's one of my favorite arcs, which is why, even though this isn't like a faithful Flashpoint, it's definitely inspired by, which is part of the reason why I get excited. Flashpoint is really, really good. It's got to be one of my favorite in the series. Okay, you know what one I want to see? I want to see Under the Red Hood.
Ooh, that would
Live
be
action.
really good.
Yeah.
So Billy, in that one, it's so second Robin, the kid that plays him, gets killed by the Joker. Okay, and like
Brutally. Gets
brutally
beat to almost death with a crowbar and then blown up.
Jesus.
Yeah. And Batman still doesn't kill Joker. Of course.
Because Batman does not.
Yeah. But like, what is it, like 10 years later? Maybe 15?
Yeah, at that point, he's already got Tim Drake, and Tim Drake is old.
So like 10 years later, this new villain shows up, and his name's the Red Hood, and he's going around and he's killing other villains. And I mean, the spoiler for it is that it's the second Robin, and he didn't die. But it is such a good story because it involves, like Detective Batman, and then it's also personal, and it comes into it brings up the whole argument of, I was your Robin, and you still didn't kill the Joker for what he did. And it's a really interesting argument that they bring up, and I think it's handled really well in the cartoon that they did, and then also the comics.
Then they tried to do it in Arkham Knight, but they did it less effectively.
Yeah.
But the Red Hood, that would be and I'd like to see that with, I don't think they would, but I would love to see that with the Robert Pattinson timeline.
Yes.
That would be fucking good.
The one I was thinking I would want to see, just because I really enjoyed it, is the Court of Owls.
Yeah, that one's good too.
I like how creepy that is. Court of Owls, Batman again, but it's like there's a secret society that's ruled the city of Gotham forever.
Illuminati.
Pretty much, that's exactly it. But it ends up that Bruce's family was like involved in it, and so he has to like figure out what his family did and if they were bad. So that's a good one too, and that includes his actual son. That's Damian. But by then we'd be pretty far into Batman if we actually get Damian.
Yeah, I don't know. They'd have to do like a time jump or something.
Do you
Not
think we'll
sure.
ever get to see 4 Robins?
No, they would never do
I
that.
wish. Just because I think they're such cool characters, each one. But imagine all the years you'd have to do.
Kingdom Come would be kind of cool too. I'm like looking up like DC arcs.
You
now.
could do like the Apocalypse one. I mean, even though they kind of already did, they tried to do that with Justice League, but that's a pretty good arc.
They did Crisis on Infinite Earths, kind of in the Arrowverse, but I would like a better version of that.
Not the CW.
Crisis on Infinite Earths, just to give you some context, is like the multiverse of madness of DC.
I feel like they have to ease into that shit. Like even the Apocalypse one, that's such a grand scale. Like if you think of what Marvel did, like with the Attack on New York, like that didn't seem that wild. But then you go to like the Apocalypse, where it's I don't know.
That's why I think a more toned down arc like Red Hood would be better.
Better place to start at least. They could
Yeah.
build into those. But
Then eventually, when they're as far along as Marvel is, then they could do Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah.
But if they did it with Robert Pattinson, I feel like that would have to be like the 3rd or 4th movie.
So,
Because the second movie could be like they could do a time jump 5 years later, and that wouldn't be a big deal. and then they could introduce. They'd have to skip Dick, and they'd have to go straight unless they changed it and made Dick the one that.
That would, I mean, people wouldn't be expecting that. That's for
Yeah.
sure. But I don't want. Dick needs justice.
I know.
Dick needs justice.
Dick needs justice.
Clip it.
They'd have to skip Richard Grayson.
Yes, Richard is his full name.
So that's the main problem with Under the Red Hood is that's a much later in life Batman. So the only way that they could just jump right into that would be if they did a flashback with like Ben Affleck's Batman or something.
Yeah,
And Ben Affleck has said that he's
done.
done. This is his last appearances in the Flash movie. Robert Pattinson could do it for a very long time still.
I want what the whole the guy who's directing Batman now. He says he's not gonna it's completely. He's not going to.
He's
bring
not
it.
connecting it
Yeah.
to anything. It's its own stories.
So I wonder how long he would go on.
I don't know.
Because if they do get to the Red Hood, I would want to see them fully build up to it.
They could do a second movie where they introduce Dick Grayson. He'd have to be a little bit older for what I'm thinking. Not a boy wonder, but more like a fresh out of high school wonder.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that movie, Dick Grayson goes off and does his own thing. And then he can meet Jason Todd in the third one. Jason Todd gets killed at the end of the third, and then finally do Under the Red Hood on like the fourth one. That
Yeah.
would be the only way to really kind of, ease your way into it.
How much Robin could you handle, Billy? Like, what would you, as not a Batman fan, would you get sick of multiple Robins?
No, I like Batman.
Yeah.
It's I've never been a crazy fan of Robin because I always just think he's a weaker version of Batman.
He kind of is.
Yeah, he is.
The whole thing is he's being trained up by Batman to eventually
Take his spot.
I don't know if to take a spot so much as to
Be his henchman.
the only Robin that assumed the mantle for a little bit was Dick Grayson, and he did it while Batman was
Dead.
healing.
Through
He,
time.
he was dead, but
It was such a weird.
Did he wear the Batman?
yeah,
Yeah.
he
Oh.
was Batman for a while.
That's my favorite comic book run of Batman of all time.
And you know what's funny is the type of Batman he was is actually his build and his approach is actually very similar to Robert Pattinson as Batman.
Yeah,
That's sort of how he was as Batman. And
he was like acrobatic and
he's a little bit more fit and slender. He wasn't as tanky, So that would be, if you had to envision what a Dick Grayson Batman would be, it would actually be like Robert Pattinson's Batman.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love that run just because it's new and it's fresh and it has the whole perspective of, by that time Batman has his real son is Robin, and then now Batman's dead, and instead Dick comes in and is like a surrogate dad to the new Robin, and it's beautiful.
It's good.
It's really
Oh,
good.
God. In the animated universe, Dick Grayson got the short end of the
I
stick
know.
again.
They never
It was give Dick a
The
not a
dick.
fair rub. It's like he was all crazy at the end. He like lost his mind, and Starfire was like, "It's okay," and he's all like,
he
like,
did, yeah, he
damn
gets the short stick a lot, or short dick.
He's get the short stick.
In Injustice, the video game,
Oh yeah.
he gets killed before the game even takes place.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's he's one of the factors for what happens in the game.
He's part of the injustice.
By
Kinda.
fucking Damien, dude.
Yeah,
Damien throws
Batman's son.
Batman's son throws one of his weapons, and because he's mad at him, and it hits him in the back of the head, and it knocks him out, and then he kills himself on the way his neck hits the ground.
It's $1 million
Jesus,
baby.
That's so lame.
He lands on a and it cracks his neck and he's dead.
And that all happened before the game even started.
Yeah,
And Batman,
That's so lame.
one of his quips when he's fighting Robin, which is his son, he's just like, "You killed my real son, Dick." As they say that right before they're about
I
to
thought
fight.
I was your son. You killed my real son.
Which, I mean, he was like the adoptive father.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that his name is Dick, but back in the 40s and 50s, that was pretty common. All right, that was
Richard. They can just call him Richard now. Richard
Rich?
Grayson. Rich.
Rich Grayson.
They
How you
renamed
doing?
him. They renamed him Rick when he got like amnesia in a comic run. Rick Grayson.
Rick Grayson.
Oh God.
I honestly don't have a problem with Dick. It's just funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so a lot of potential with Batman specifically.
Yeah, and everyone too. I know I've never personally been a huge fan of Superman, but I know a lot of people are, and I don't know any of his arcs, but I'm sure he has good ones.
Superman is interesting because you essentially give the most powerful, abilities to a guy that was born and raised on a farm.
Yeah,
He's just a moral, good Southern boy, and I think that's why that's why he's an interesting character. But he's never been my favorite. I don't like anyone that's too OP. And his villains are all, just because they have to be villains, they're all also super OP. So every
Yeah.
time they fight, cities explode. And it's,
Yeah.
except for Lex Luthor, which is interesting. He has no powers, but he's his arch enemy.
I always argue with my dad because my dad really likes Superman, and I really like Batman. And I'm like, Superman sucks, and I've almost convinced myself to like hate Superman because of that. So
I do think even though it's fun to watch, I do think it is definitely, there is some slight bullshit going on when Batman beats Superman in The Dark Knight Returns.
true, yeah.
And I just remember this YouTube comment. I was watching that fight on YouTube, the animated movie, and Batman's holding Superman. He's like, I want you to remember this moment. It'll always be the moment that you failed, or whatever he says to him. You'll remember that you were beaten by me. Batman says that. And one of the top comments was like, if you listen really closely, you can hear the noise of Batman's dick in Frank Miller's mouth. Because Frank Miller is so obsessed with Batman that he wrote a whole story where Batman beats Superman.
Yeah. I feel like though in the comic and the animated, they explain it a little bit better, even though it's a huge leap of how he beat him with like Green Arrow and the kryptonite arrow.
Yeah, well, like in the animated movie, like he doesn't even really use kryptonite.
Yeah, and so it's
And I'm
kinda-
like, no, I'm sorry,
There's
but he
no
wouldn't,
chance.
he wouldn't have won.
yeah, in the comics they explain it better. They Green Arrow is missing an arm, and he fires an arrow with his foot.
Because Batman ripped it off, or Superman ripped it off.
ripped it off. Yeah, and so he fires a kryptonite arrow at Superman, but like Superman doesn't know it's kryptonite, so he catches it, and then it goes. Pff.
Which actually happens in Batman versus Superman.
Is
With
it the arrow?
It's a grenade,
Oh, that's
but
right.
he does the same thing. He catches it, and then it explodes in his face.
That's right.
That was a
Forgot about
callback
that.
to the Dark Knight Rises, or the Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, and then that's the reason why Batman's able to beat him. What do you think of Superman, Billy?
I think he's probably he has this fatal flaw that they just love to leverage all the time, kryptonite. But other than that, he's like absolutely unstoppable. I think he's probably one of the most overpowered characters of like ever. I mean, he has them all. And I just feel like it's sort of cheesy to downplay him whenever they want with like kryptonite. It's like, oh, he lost? How'd he lose kryptonite? Oh, he
Yeah.
won? There was no kryptonite. Like, it's that
Yeah.
simple, and it kind of, I think it loses something. I feel like it would have been more interesting if he had, maybe if he wasn't so overtuned and just didn't have the kryptonite fatal flaw. But yeah, I don't know.
I have a final question for you guys here because I believe we're running pretty long here.
Oh yeah.
Do you think a successful Superman game will ever exist?
No.
No.
Why?
Well, because what's the combat? At the end of the day, it's just throwing punches, right? Maybe shooting some heat lasers or flying around.
They could do a successful Superman game, I think, but they'd have to nerf Superman. Like, how are you going to control a character that can fly around faster
Mhm.
than you can see, that can go through, like, that would be like a fun simulator game, like Goat Simulator, but you're playing as Superman and you just
VR.
get free reign on.
Yeah.
But like, the only way to do that successfully would be if they nerf Superman's powers, because then I don't see how that's fun.
Yeah,
Flying
like, if-
around so fast you can't even see the world around you.
Well, and if
Like,
you have nothing to progress towards, if you're already,
You're already overpowered.
you're already OP.
What are you gonna do? You gonna have a skill tree for Superman?
Yeah.
Like, and that's it. That's it. Like, what's the combat look like? It's not interesting.
See, so I've heard.
With Batman games, like Batman games, you get all his cool gadgets, and that makes combat like the Arkham games. Oh man, those are a lot of fun because you get to use that whole bevy, and like throwing punches is like a meaningful way. Like throw a punch at Superman, the guy's knocked into a different continent, right?
Yeah.
Like what are we fighting here? You would have to make it like it would have to be a very like silly style game like Ratchet and Clank where like you're just doing like ridiculous things with ridiculous weapons, fighting ridiculous monsters, and it would just have to be silly.
and it wouldn't be able to be contained on one planet for it to be interesting.
I did see this one idea, and I want to hear your guys' opinion.
Hit me.
That I guess there was a comic run where Superman lost his powers, and he like slowly regained them. That you could do that. You start off as him without he's a very nerfed Superman. He can't fly.
Well, that would be more interesting.
He can kind of he can jump high and he can hit hard, but he's
Nerfed.
and then you get skill points to build up his
You
abilities.
get to climb this mountain, and you can collect 3 sun rays, which 3 sun rays then builds your strength by 10. And
Well,
I don't know if it'd be that, but
Well, that's what I mean. It would only be fun if you played a nerf version of Superman.
then the thing is would you lose something? Because by the end, would you be able to fully be Superman? I don't know if that would work.
Yeah. But even honestly, even like a Flash game,
Oh, that'd be hard.
that'd be hard too. Like, how are you going to play a character that can move faster than the speed of
Flash
light?
might be interesting if it was purely a puzzle game.
If there was mini games in the middle
Like
of his
the
running.
yeah, the whole
Quick
thing,
action.
He has to run. You have to time your boost right to run faster than the speed of light, to reverse time, to hit this trigger just in time. Like, if it's a puzzle game for the Flash, I think that could be really interesting. But Superman, he's like a no. I just even the leveling experience that you described, that's not fun. I don't know, because the whole time you feel like you're nerfed.
Yeah.
Like, the end game, where you're gonna get to. You're fucking Superman. So I don't know. It just
You know what I
wouldn't be-
think would be more fun, because she's not at that level, would be a Wonder Woman game.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman would be a really fun game. I
And
think.
she has a cool little toolkit, like the lasso of truth and stuff like
Yeah,
that. That could
She's
be really
a shield. It would be God of War.
Basically,
female
yeah.
version.
It'd be a female version of God of War.
interesting. Good point.
But
I would play
that's
that.
exactly why I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
you know.
You did bring up interesting though. Flash. I'm trying to imagine because his power levels, Billy. I don't think you even understand how.
He could go
he can't even
sprint
wrap
to a
your head around.
library, read a book, right?
No, he's even beyond that. He can move. I think he can move faster than an attosecond, which is
Whoa.
a 0.000. It's insane.
Yeah, well, the thing that I've always learned, if he didn't know about a monster, right, he could shoot over to something, consume knowledge at the speed of light while running the speed of light, however that fucking works, and then come back and have all the expertise on how to do that, right?
Yeah, he once saved a whole town as an atom bomb was exploding.
Yeah, that's so cool.
20,000 people he moved.
No, the
He-
Flash is definitely
He's the only member of the original Justice League that would have a fair chance against Superman. Even though Superman has so much more than the Flash, but the fact that he wouldn't really be able to catch the Flash
Yeah.
is what.
Well, just being able to move. I mean, first off, to be able to reverse time, that's massively overpowered. But then all of your actions to occur at that speed, I don't know how you defend against that. I don't. Do you fight him in a black hole where he can't? I don't know.
And the second Flash we were talking about, he in the comics, he outruns death itself.
What the fuck does that look like?
It's
the
death
Grim
dressed
Reaper
up.
with a scythe. Like,
Just chasing him like, fuck,
not today.
not today.
Well, Flash also something that people don't think about is he's even got a healing factor. He can literally just speed up parts of his body that hurts to heal. So like he's got
Wow.
all Wolverine's powers too. So
But he lacks sense. Like, okay, he lacks like senses though, right? Like he doesn't have like spider senses or Spidey senses, right?
No,
To
but
where-
his reaction time is also the same. Like he can, in certain comics, depending who's writing him, he can react at superhuman speeds.
It's like
in
I'm just
the-
thinking of like, so if someone shot him, like while he was sleeping, they put a gun in a centimeter off of his head and they shot him. He could be dead asleep, feel the bullet like touch his skin, and be able to react and move around the room.
he
redirect
has
the
to
bullet.
like when he's awake, he's always prepped and ready for that. If he's sleeping, I think you probably could shoot and kill him. Because that's the thing is he's unless he's trained himself to, I don't know, like is the moment he's in danger do his powers just activate? It depends on who's writing him, like Dylan said. But in the Flash TV show, he was I forget what he was doing, but he was just standing there and someone shot behind him and he didn't realize what was happening. And then as soon as the bullet touched his neck, he realized he was getting shot. And then he like reached around and pushed the bullet out of the way, but like just barely in time. And then like it left like a cut on his
Singe
neck,
or
like a
whatever,
singe
yeah.
on his neck.
Huh.
So like what if it depends on who's writing him, I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
is the real answer to that question.
Because the CW, that Flash was very interesting. Because every season, he wasn't the fastest man alive, and then he became the fastest man alive, and then it happened in the next season.
The CW Flash is actually fairly underpowered compared to how Flash can be.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think I'm inclined to think that if he wasn't ready, you could kill him that way.
From the quick Google search I looked up, it looks like people are on your side that you could kill him if he was asleep because he's not aware. But the question then becomes if his senses are that fast, like on wouldn't he react to like the sound of the gun? Wouldn't that reach his brain? Like,
Well, I don't know what would hit first, the sound wave or the bullet. I don't know.
Yeah, because he can't
Yeah.
speed up other things.
Like the sound wave isn't even at him, so he can't really sense that it's coming.
but like the click of the gun,
If he
or
Yeah, but is that enough to wake you up? I don't
exactly, I don't know. That'd be
is
So
that
he-
that's
so
not a
he's-
super hearing. He doesn't have super
know.
hearing.
Yeah. Or the
He
Spidey
has super
senses,
reaction
yeah.
time.
So
So like
Spidey senses in and of itself, like paired with that, like those two could be very powerful.
if the Flash had Spidey sense,
He's
then
OP.
yeah.
so. But what if like when the bullet hits him, right, as it's like starting to go into his skin, would that reaction
Trigger
time
his-
trigger? Like if it starts to hurt him and
Once
enough
the
to wake
bullet
him up?
touches his brain,
yeah, would he wake up?
he wake-
Well,
Uh,
isn't like I don't know, maybe he can exist in like a slow motion style universe where he's always like active, but doesn't he get like this is super anecdotal and stupid, but doesn't he get like super hungry?
That's
Yeah.
based on the comic writer too.
Oh, okay.
depends on.
Like
But, like, in
he
the-
can't just exist
In all the
in
TV
that.
shows and in the movie, he has to constantly consume calories. But someone did the math, and they're like, if
Oh,
that was
God.
actually like a
would have
thing
to
he
eat
had to do,
everything.
he would literally never not be consuming food.
Yeah, he'd have to always
So-
be eating.
So
He'd
it
have to
depends
eat
on who's writing.
Fudge and fudge only. I mean, he like accelerates his digestion.
He's got like IV drips. It's just constantly feeding.
Pumping in
He's just
fudge
shitting
and
all the time as he's running.
the densest.
Well, he can phase it through his suit, so it just
Dude, his
Can the Flash fly?
no.
So can
But-
he run and jump like off planet? Like
But
he
he is
yes.
also just human. So like if he isn't careful,
runs into something.
well, like if he isn't careful, like if he jumps, like he can seriously do some damage.
Miscalculate.
Miscalculate. So he's got to be, but like he could run up walls. He can,
But he can. This is the part where you run into issues with Flash, like Superman. Everything that they explain is Speed Force. That's the magic thing that protects the Flash. So that's like how they can explain that his skin doesn't melt off due to the friction of
Yeah,
Or
running.
if he
don't all turn to dust.
trips and
when he-
falls while running that
Yeah.
fast, he doesn't just die.
Also,
instantly.
like the force generated on the ground would like crumble any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His foot would be all the way through the floor. Every time he accelerated to light speed because you'd have to exert such a force.
He could literally like drool, and that drool would destroy everything in its path. if it fell on.
Absolutely.
I thought of a way Superman could beat the Flash. He could just fly into space and then fly through the planet and destroy the whole planet.
But would Flash be able to reach him faster than he could hit the planet core? I think so.
If Flash didn't know it was coming.
Oh, true.
No spidey senses.
No spidey senses. But his reaction time,
His
Yeah, I don't
reaction.
know, that's-
as the Earth is exploding, he can reverse time. So unless it's instant,
No, but you can't reverse if he's dead already. You can't reverse that.
well, exactly. But only if it's instant. If it's not instant,
Well, that's why all of Flash's villains are like have the Speed Force. Otherwise,
yeah, you have to fight on
Yeah.
that same.
like his main villain, Gorilla Grodd.
Gorilla Grodd is actually one of his villains, and he's just a smart gorilla. But like,
Wow.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about like Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
And,
Killing it, DC.
And then Captain Cold.
Captain Cold.
Is he just sickly?
He's
He's cold.
he's Mr. Freeze.
He's a lame version of
He's
Mr.
a lame
Freeze.
version of
Yeah,
Mr.
and you
Freeze.
mentioned earlier like what, red helmet or red mask?
Red Skull from
Red-
Captain America.
Yeah, so there's Red Skull, but then you mentioned Robin,
Red Hood?
Red Hood. So there's Red Skull, Marvel.
Yeah,
Red Hood. They borrow everything, dude.
Red Hood.
I know they're probably nothing related.
Oh, I was gonna
but-
say he's specific to Batman. In
Yeah.
fact, all of Batman's villains are the best, but all of them would fucking die real quick to any other DC hero. If we're being honest,
Yeah. Like Joker.
like Joker would
No
poses
chance.
Well,
I mean,
he's the one
Thor.
that
Bring me Joker.
Joker is the one that tricked tricked Superman into killing Lois Lane,
that's right.
launching all of Injustice.
Can you handle all my mentally unstable enemies? Bring it on. This guy does drugs.
Imagine Thor like, bring me Penguin. It's fucking Colin Farrell's Penguin, just like mobster. Like, what you were talking about?
Hey, Thor. Well, guys, been a great episode. Billy, where can they find us?
Oh shit! They can find us on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. We have an Instagram as well at the KD Ratio Podcast. And we live stream on YouTube sometimes, generally on Tuesdays.
Sometimes.
And podcasts go up every Tuesday.
Yeah. And remember, guys, with a good KD, you get the dub.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.